Alright, what's good? So recently I've been kind of burnt out on playing games constantly. So I fell back into my safety net of just playing Baldur's Gate 3 for the 100th time. This is actually a problem I run into often, honestly. Is that I'll play a 11 out of 10 game, at least to me, that makes everything else seem like a complete waste of time, and even attempting to branch out for a single playthrough is something that is just exhausting. So to fix this, I tried to look for games that were very similar in tone to Baldur's Gate 3 in terms of its turn-based combat and character stories. Now let me say this first though. I did try Divinity Original Sin 2 some years ago, but that was before when I was still in my sort of Call of Duty brain rot, competitive cracked out and this extremely, competitive mindset. So I thought it was boring and slow paced, and I dropped it in about an hour. But after playing it again, after almost 1100 hours in Baldur's Gate 3, it is very, I would say, conflicting. There are some things I really like about this game that I think it even does better than Baldur's Gate 3 does, but most things are, I would say, good to okay, or just maybe not my style. I've tried my best to separate the two, but man, I mean, they're just so similar in a lot of aspects, and of course they were gonna be, but I mean, even the start of the game is almost identical. Like, starting on a boat compared to a mind flare ship, they both crash or sink, and you help your companions escape. You start on a beach shore, you meet your first and probably your most important companion about 10 yards away in both of them. And although Fort Joy and Divinity is more like a tutorial, whereas the Notorious region, the first region, is the genuine start of Baldur's Gate 3, the setup of the games are basically one-to-one, I'd say. But I don't want to spend 10 minutes talking about how they feel the same or different, so I'll just kind of leave it at that. What I do want to talk about is how I came out of my first playthrough in DOS2 more divided and conflicted than I thought I would, but I still really had a good time with it. And not in the way that you're thinking. It was mostly incredible, but at times I wish it was something different or just a little less frustrating to get going. There's a lot of speed bumps, I would say, in the first maybe 15 to 20 hours of the game. I want to get to the negatives and get those out of the way first. And the first thing I really want to talk about is something that held me back from enjoying the combat of this game, at least as much as I wanted to, and it was the clunkiness of the controls, at least on the console version. I do understand that this game, like every RPG strategy game with team composition, is much better played on keyboard and mouse, but I mean, damn, it does not work well at all with a controller. I mean, the main issue here is that the hotbar, it just simply doesn't work most of the time. This game's version of the hotbar has to be one of the worst designed, combat utilities in a game I've probably ever seen. For example, the reset function is disabled in combat, and what I mean by this is, say you perform an action with a character, let's say you melee attack with 2 attack points and expend the rest of your turn with that character. The game keeps that input memorized when your next character turn is up. So let's say you have the composition where you use your melee character to take down physical or magical shields, and now you want to move your spellcaster in position to attack HP, but you forgot that the game doesn't reset when you're switching characters just to their default setup. And you instantly you try to move to position, right? Like you would in any other game. Your character will either they'll randomly attack a character next to them or the ground or something, because you tried to move without resetting the hotbar for yourself. Or B, which is probably the best case scenario, is you accidentally use a random spell, which it will kind of do. Sometimes it will glitch out and just accidentally select the hotbar by itself. But either way, you wasted attack points and basically have to wait a full turn that might not actually come if you're playing on tactician or honor mode difficulty. Also, having to scroll the side scroll or switch tabs for every separate set of actions, like your basic functions such as flee or delay your turn, which you can clear up space for and add it to your main attack tab, but then you'll have to do even more switching from different tabs to get to different scrolls and attacks or whatever. It just gets very repetitive very quickly, and it's something that wears on you the more you play combat in this game, especially with the more spells and the more attacks and abilities that you'll get. The wheel system from Baldur's Gate 3 makes this issue completely obsolete, but it's still a headache in this game. Again, at least for consoles. I know PC, you probably just modded it out the ass, and it's all of a sudden a poor man's version of Baldur's Gate 3, but we can't do that here. And then there's the inventory and menu that has to be like reverse engineered to be the most aggravating thing humanly possible. This is clunky for a whole bunch of reasons that are just separate from the combat issues. Hopefully I have clips up so you know what I'm talking about. But I remember in one instance, I'm trying to clear and then add an item from Sibel's inventory onto her hotbar for combat, and guess where it takes me? It just takes me to my main character's inventory space, which it had a lot of stuff, so it was kind of hard to like figure out where the cursor or where the highlighted box was. Or this example where I opened the inventory with Lose, but again it's on my character. Then when I reopened it, like the inventory with my character after I'm finished with Lose, it's vice versa again. I believe this actually happens for whoever you last changed the hotbar slot for, or the last inventory input you do, or sometimes it just happens when you have the randomly assigned person as your group leader. But still, having to take that into account and then to scroll to the right character, put that item on and back out of your inventory, then reopen your hotbar after exiting, because it doesn't just take you there even if you had it open. It's just like a bunch of little oversights in the design that they get really annoying the more you engage with it. Now thankfully there is a separate tab, at least for like, you know, a silver lining in some of this is that the archived or the completed quest. So it's a lot easier to check like your journal entries and things like that, or you know, just like other entries and updated objectives. Unlike in Baldur's Gate 3 where objectives could have been like completed forever, and only after you've entered a new region do they get moved to the completed quest section at the bottom of the log. So it's just like a super unorganized, at least in Baldur's Gate 3, that's how the user interface is not that great. So at least there's that for this game. But overall, I'm not a huge fan of the control scheme and its functionality, or the confusing button prompts, and it's just straight up poorly designed like hotbar. I absolutely hate, and it's something that I'm tearing my hair out every time I'm playing it. And that's essentially where my only massive downsides with this game end. And I know that if PC players are watching this and they played the game, they're probably like, what the f are you talking about, dude? Because they'll likely have never experienced any of these issues. But for console players playing this game that was obviously made for a different platform, it is a negative to consider. There are other things, like negative things. Trust me, there are a few things that I did not like about this game, but they were more from like the side of my preferences, that I had to like swallow that pride that it was something that it just wasn't made for me, rather than like a flaw or issue I found that was just inexcusable, like the hotbar and inventory like mismanagement that is just straight up not functioning properly half the time. So that is a legit issue. So now that I'm done whining and complaining, I'll first go over the best thing about DOS2, and I think it's the number one most important thing in any story driven game, is the characters and companions. For right now at least, oh my god, can't believe I'm about to say this, but just with the 3 companions that I traveled with in my first playthrough, I think these are some of the most likable and interesting characters that I've come across in any video game. I think Larian might have the companion game on lock, I guess, just in terms of how interesting they are. But I'll start with Sibel, since I already mentioned her and she's the first one I encountered. She's essentially this game's like Astarion, you know, the slave made to do horrible things kind of character. If this was a few years ago, I would have definitely rolled my eyes at her, because she's so obviously tsundere from your very first meeting. I mean, she's quite literally like dripping tsundere, but then she warms up to you as you continue traveling with her and do her quest.
There it is. I was wondering when your spine would make an appearance.
She pulls her hand away, quickly and violently, as if bitten by a snake.
No, it's fine. I don't know why I did that. I suppose I'm a bit skittish from time to time. Skittish like a cat that's seen too much unkindness. You see, there's triplets in my mind. The woman I am, the woman I must be, the woman I long to be.
Without spoiling too much, I personally think that she has the best character development of the trio of my companions. And it's not your average, bad things happen to good person, now good person, bad person. Runs into really good person, now they're good person again too. It's not like that, it's actually deeper than that, thank God. She reminds me of another character, in that aspect at least, but I'm trying with all my willpower to stop mentioning Baldur's Gate 3 because it's not a comparison video. So I'll just leave it at that for now.
Is the little dog trying to intimidate us? If it continues to bark, I will snap its neck.
Then there's Lose, who I mentioned again. Is it Los or Lose? I'm going to just call her Lose. But she is the definition of an extrovert, which I don't mind because as an introvert, when you spot a chatterbox like Lose in real life, that just means you have less talking to do. I often listened to her dialogue and went, this is some shit I would do in real life. Because like Lose will be explaining her experience as a musician and how she became a host to, well, what resides in her. I'm just going to try to not spoil it. I almost said it. And I'll just be like, yep, no clue what she's talking about. But, you know, like she's a good time. She's an extrovert, so obviously she's going to be a good time. She has good vibes and she has an interesting story, so I like it. And the last companion is kind of split between Ifan and Beast, but I'll just go with Ifan in my party because he was there more often, so that's who I'll go with for now. Ifan is what you would call like a brother to bonds, I guess. I don't know what kind of term that is. I just coined it just now. But first it seemed like he's just a regular mercenary, but when you learn about what led him to becoming one, it's almost darker than Sibel's backstory. At least that's what I think. His story can go into a few different directions depending on your choices. I only say skimmed enough to see two of the directions I could go, but if there were any indication as to what his other story path options looked like, then I'm sure they'd be just as interesting and brutal as the ones I did. To close out this video though, I want to highlight two things that work together to make the combat itself, forget the jank for a sec, but the combat itself one of the best in terms of a tactical RPG or ARPG, which will be the level design and theory crafting that you can do. DOS2 is a game where problem solving due creativity is available in more ways than you think. I know that personally I thought it was more linear, but it's actually pretty expansive when you do different playstyles. For example, I'm currently doing a lone wolf playthrough, which is a type of way you can play and get even stronger, but of course you have to travel alone. That's technically not true, I think. I think you can travel with one person, but if you travel with anything more than one person, then it like nullifies the buffs. So I pick up the rogue stealth setup, obviously, and I look for a way to exit Fort Joy that isn't just ramming through the Magisters, because I'll just die. And so when I'm sneaking around in this church area where the judge is about to make another silent monk, I silently sneak around the backside of the church and out of view to break down a couple of boxes, blocking a small crack that I pushed through to exit the fort. I straight up didn't even know this was possible, and I looked around this place for a while on my first playthrough because I was looking for paintings, but the level design takes into account all type of playstyles, and if you want to avoid a fight if you're on higher difficulty and you feel like the reward to beat enemies isn't worth the risk of a party wipe, then there's multiple exits and hidden pathways you can take out. Or if you want to take the head-on approach and you want to gain a couple like future allies from saving them from enemies or whatever, you can assault through the like main gates or tunnel and just brute force your way through the bridge out of Fort Joy. And the combat encounters make so much sense in terms of being tactical. We get enemies on high grounds with ranged weapons, and they often have like traps set up, like little oil spots or little like poison spots or whatever. But the weaker enemies often are looking over their tankier, more skilled like magisters or swashbucklers. And don't even get me started on the theory crafting. I absolutely love games like this with theory crafting. I can do things like, okay, this character has this, and if I give them this and then follow it up with this skill or something, and then they'll be vulnerable to this, and then this character can do their special attacks if I position them right, and then upgrade their, like, I have their upgrade path a certain way, and then that leaves this enemy exposed. So then if I like sort of stealth this area out and sort of case this area, then I don't know, I put an oil barrel here and then I activate after my turn so that I know I still have control while I'm still in stealth. That probably sounded like complete gibberish, I'm not gonna lie. But honestly, it's like what I'm usually thinking. I'm like trying to like millisecond think in my head and pre-plan a tough fight if I'm on like tactician or honor mode difficulty. And what a game as detailed as this with character abilities, and I actually think it does a better job at this than what BG3 does as well. God damn it, I did it again. Anyways, point being, this system is very in-depth and even like extremely versatile because your companions are sort of a jack of all trades who can do whatever you need them to do, like a lot of other games as well. But I think the implementation here is sort of very straightforward and simplistic, but it's also very in-depth. The last thing I'll mention before I wrap this up is the soundtrack gotta be like top 3 all time, dude. It's genuinely incredible. I genuinely don't think it's possible to express how much I vibe with every song, all the ambience noises, and also the voice acting is literally goated by definition. It's just incredible. Every voice I've heard it's just like, I don't know, it's the best voice acting I've ever heard. I just realized though, wait, I say this for like every single player game. I like cover on the channel. I said it for Cyberpunk. I don't know. I say it for every game, but I mean, what do you want me to say? It's true. Like when I hear some like lame ass soundtrack with I guess from a decent enough game, I'm like, that's a wasted opportunity, man. Like I've played games in the past where I completed them with just a soundtrack that was incredible. And if a good soundtrack can carry a game, it can also definitely enhance the experience. And that's what DOS2's soundtrack does for me, at least. I kind of like to make this comparison. It's like if you were to take the climax of a moment of like a story's climax and just take away the sound, just listen to it and it's like, whoa, what the hell's happening? It's like nothing's actually going on. It's because you rely so much on that sound and that experience. And yeah, I've really been on this kick in the last 2 years of like, buy any and every game that looks even slightly interesting and it's on sale. And I don't know, it might surprise me. And to be honest, most of them have surprised me. Even though I had DOS2 for a while, I never actually gave it a real shot. And I can say for the most part, I enjoyed my experience with my first playthrough. Now, will it be my next Baldur's Gate 3 playing 16 hours? Yes, that's right, 16 hours non-stop of gaming. Like my eyes just glued on the screen. Like how I could just do it routinely. No, it doesn't have to be that though. And also, there's another BG3 mention. Just, I don't know, started drinking game at this point. Still, I got a few more playthroughs in me, I think, and just to play with different companions that I didn't play with my first playthrough, and to play different like playstyles, and probably even get a little goofy with it. But let me know if y'all played DOS 2 or if you missed out on it like I did, and you need to give it a shot eventually, because this is if I had to actually coin a term for it, fun, extremely fun, and frustrating. It's fun and frustrating. That's DOS 2 in a nutshell for me. But anyways, that's it. I'm gonna stop rambling. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.